Today, I'm speaking with Meg Fasy from eventsGIG. Meg has been in the industry for many years and a tremendous experience. And we're going to be talking about the freelance economy, what's changing in our industry, and what are the opportunities in front of us. Enjoy listening to my conversation with Meg. Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. I am absolutely thrilled that she finally accepted to be my guest. Meg Fasy, you are a star in this industry. You've been everywhere, done a lot of things. I am so happy that we can talk with each other today.
Eric, thank you. And I'm going to give you a hard time because I'm not even the first Philadelphian you've had on the show. Mike Massari beat me to it. Not that he's not a completely worthy, but
there we go. That's a good start. Right.
Always competition with the Philly people.
So, Meg, tell us a little bit about you, who you are, and how you joined this industry.
Yeah, I think I'm like most people, we fell into the industry. I was going to college. I, took a job waitressing, and then I was bartending. And, next thing you know, I'm working at the Grand Hyatt in catering and love the hotel business, stayed with Hyatt for almost 10 years, moved around the country, decided at some point I wanted my weekends and my holidays, so jumped out of catering into sales. And, it was interesting. All of the jobs I had in the hotel business, I was always interested in the bigger picture. Like, why were these meetings happening? And, from a hotel standpoint, especially from catering, you don't always get those answers, right? Mm-hmm. You're always just moving and moving and moving. So, I've had a lot of jobs in the industry, more than David Dubois, and a little competition there too. It's because it's really been interesting. So I've worked in hotels. I've worked at Convention Visitors Bureau. You and I met when I was VP of Sales at MBI, right? Yep. You were the chair. I've worked for event technology companies, and then I decided to start my own business and own, for the last 6 years, have run Phase Forward, which is a sponsorship management company. I work with organizations to create their sponsorship packages and then sell them, and work with them on sponsorship strategy, a couple of year process. So that's really kind of the evolution. I don't think it's all that different than most people. I think we all kind of fall into this industry. There certainly was not a major when I was going to college, and we just loved it.
Absolutely. I think one thing, though, is very different with you, and I'm not talking about the competitive aspect, which obviously you don't lack any competition DNA with you, but it's really the courage that you've demonstrated in leaving corporate to start your own business. Can you tell us a little bit more about the journey that you had in your own mind, and what was the trigger to do that?
It's an interesting question, and I've been actually asked that question before, and I always kind of struggle with the answer. And really, the answer was, throughout my career, I always just knew what the next step was going to be. Even back when I was with Hyatt, I was at a Grand Hyatt in DC. At the time, the convention center was across the street, so it was a big convention hotel. And I knew I wanted variety. So I knew that my next move was a suburban property in LA. And then I went to an airport property in San Francisco. And then I went to a resort. So I always knew kind of where my progression was. And then I hit a mark where I was working with an organization that I just wasn't feeling the growth opportunity that I had wanted, and didn't see a road in front of me. And then I finally thought, well, why don't I pave the road? Why don't I just create my own highway? And from that, I sat down with a couple of my girlfriends in the industry, and they're all like crazy smart women. And I said, this is what I want to do. Here's what I think my skill set is, help. And we sat around a pool one day drinking pina coladas. And, and one of them said, Meg, why don't you look into sponsorship? I think there's a real need for that. And and that's kind of, I did my due diligence to make sure there was a need, that I could create a business out of it. And that's really helped develop. But I just kind of always knew which direction I should go in, even when it wasn't the easiest direction. It was about growth for me, and it was about getting experience. So, always in the industry, but trying to do different things and learn about different aspects of the industry.
What was the scariest moment when you started your business?
Interesting. Okay, so the scariest moment is realizing that what you think your company is going to look like at the end of the day, it's going to look nothing like that. So I'll tell you, I thought I was going to be working primarily with end users, brands, corporations. 90% of my business comes from agencies. So I work with all the large agencies as their sponsorship person. And so that I didn't foresee. That I had no idea. So that was kind of the scariest moment when you're not really sure, is this the right way to go? This is not what I thought I was doing. But the aspect that I didn't think of at all, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't for their first company, is the emotional roller coaster that you go through. And this is great, and you're on the top, and this is amazing, and I'm gonna like be so successful, and you start going down. You go, I'm never getting any job. There's no business. I can't do it. Oh my God, here we go. Whoa, we have so much business I have to build up, and that whole roller coaster happens every 3 seconds for your entire career. So that just plays over in your head for every 3 seconds. So I didn't expect that.
That's an absolutely great point. And yeah, you're totally right.
Right. I mean, Eric, right? It does. It happens. And at one point, I think I'm going to have to staff up. I need more people. I need more freelancers. And then the next second, I'm like, how am I going to get these people work? And it's just this constant roller coaster.
Do you have mentors or coach or a personal advisory board or?
All the above, all of the above. And I always have, actually. I've worked with, I've had advisors. My very first advisor was my food and beverage manager at the Grand Hyatt in DC. And I'm so lucky to say that he is still a mentor of mine. Awesome. And a lot of times I've gone to conferences and I've heard someone speak. And this happened 3 times. And 3 times I walked up to him and said, "Hi, I'm Meg Fasy. This is what I'm doing. Would you consider taking me on as a mentor?"
Oh, wow.
And they are from all walks of life. They are from all different industries, men, women, ages different. I just really, really strongly believe in having mentors.
You just need to ask.
Right. And, it's funny. So I feel a huge responsibility to pay that back. And so at any given time, I'm mentoring 6 or 7 women. And I just really think that we need to do that.
That's great. I totally agree. Totally agree with you, Meg. Now you were mentioning that, you've been in this industry for 25 years. You've done different jobs. You've seen a lot from that. What's your take on the face-to-face versus hybrid that everybody's talking about today? And how do you see the evolution of that in the next years?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I'm glad that we're able to put the question to bed on whether virtual is ever going to take over face-to-face. Because I think we all know now that it's just not, right? We've done it, and there are levels of success with it, and there are ways to incorporate it. And I think that's where we've learned the lesson. But people want to be face-to-face, and we finally have kind of answered that age-old question that has been out there since I've started in the industry. I think the next 6 to 9 months are a little questionable on where we are. Mm-hmm. I think we all thought we were going towards in-person with having a digital aspect. I hesitate in calling it hybrid, because hybrid to me is like 2 equal parts. And I think, most organizations are either having, they're having both, they're having in-person and digital, but I think that, they're focusing more heavily on one and the other, right? So you may put, most of your focus on the content and the experience in an in-person event and expect larger attendance, but still have your digital platform with, streaming some live keynotes and having pre-recorded breakouts and things like that. But to me, they're two very different events because it's two different budgets. In many times, it's two different levels of content, all of that. So I think the next 6 to 8 months are tough because we thought we were going in person. And I think that now we're going back to thinking more, digital heavy, and what that means. And what that means from my perspective, as I look at it, with owning eventsGIG is, staffing has to be looked at differently, right? Because events are being looked at differently. And when you have a staff that you hired for in-person, face-to-face meetings, they have a high level of skill in face-to-face meetings. Some of them have skills in digital as well, but some of them don't, right? So now you have to look at your staffing differently and understand, what your new skill set's going to look like. Mm-hmm. And then, also prioritizing who attends a meeting, because now with restrictions on travel, right, on the inability to travel with some organizations, and whether that's set by city, state, organization, an individual's decision not to travel, whether you're vaccinated, whether you're not, whether you're willing to wear a mask, whether you're not, organizations are going to have to look at, if I can only have a finite number of attendees, who do I want those attendees to be? So now I'm prioritizing my attendees, right? Mm-hmm. And in order to prioritize your attendees, you now have to create very focused content and be very innovative and really creative in that content. So now, do you have that skill set on your staff to be able to pull that off, right? So I think the next couple months, it's going to be interesting to see how much we go back into digital. Mm-hmm. But I think organizations that are not looking at their event strategy in a very different way, incorporating digital, having one plan A, B, and C, which of course we all know most event marketers and planners do have A, B, C, D, and E ready to go. Yeah. But I think sometimes we don't think past the plan of the event and look at the skill set we have, because we've all heard a lot of people are, exhausted after this year because they're being put into positions to do something they don't have the skill set for.
Yep. I was listening to you, and it made me think of a parallel with when you're talking about hybrid, not hybrid. And when people talk about work-life balance, I always smile.
Yeah, me too.
I just look at it more as a work-life integration.
Right.
And the same here. You have live elements that you integrate with online elements on demand later on. So to your point, it's totally different skills. And also, we've seen this year, we're talking about David Dubois, and David will tell you that trade show online don't work.
Right. I can tell you from selling sponsorship, it is a tough sell. It is a really tough sell. And, and part of the challenge is that trade shows live in person are tough, right? You have to do a lot to get people to stop by your booth. Mm-hmm. So I think it's forcing us to rethink some of those ways in which we did meet.
And that leads me to another question. When I see in the industry, we all know what happened. We all know people that have been furloughed or laid off. And we all know now that those organizations that had to furlough or lay off people now are dying to have staff. Again, we're hearing about all those issues with the shortage of talent. What do you see there, and how do you think is going to evolve?
Yeah, it's interesting because we are stuck between a rock and a hard place because and this, Eric, we in the industry, all of us, we're getting calls every single day of our friends losing their jobs, being laid off, being furloughed, whatever the case may be. And then on the flip side, we're receiving calls from, event service companies and agencies saying, I don't know how I'm going to ramp up when we ramp up, right? Because my staff is gone. They went and got other jobs. They're doing this. A lot of salespeople became realtors. And I don't know what to do. And it is it is a tough situation to be in right now with where we are. This is, why I started eventsGIG, really because of my friends and trying to connect the two. And the fact that we have, 36% of the workforce is currently, the US workforce is currently freelancers. And
36%.
36%. And within the next 5 years, they're anticipating with it stays the same rate of growth, that it'll be 50%.
Wow.
And, there's a couple reasons for that. One is going back to what you said about work-life balance, right? So here's another step. 41% of global workers are going to leave their jobs in 2021. So this year, 40%, this was a Microsoft survey, 41%. That number is like mind-boggling to me, right?
That's what they call the grand resignation.
Grand resignation, the big quit, right? They have a million names for it. But, the reality is, not only did people lose their jobs, but the people who are in jobs are not getting what they want, not putting up with the hours anymore, whatever that case may be, to go to your point of work-life balance, right? So there's a lot of reasons this is happening. So to me, it just made sense to create a community for freelancers to be able to connect to organizations that are looking, right? And then it also made sense for me to work from an organization standpoint and help them ramp up, because they can't afford yet, right? Because they don't have the revenue stream coming in, but at the same time, they need to ladder up, right? To help them build their staffing back up. And we're helping them build staff up with the skill set they need today, not the skill set they had a year ago. So it's, the gig economy is growing.
It's amazing the numbers you're sharing now, and 41% people going to leave their job this year. Now, one other thing I like to do in the podcast, Meg, and that's why I'm very happy to have you as a guest, is to share the inspiring stories that my guests have. And not only you're an entrepreneur, but there you are in the middle of the pandemic, selling sponsorship and selling sponsorship online, and having people calling you on both sides because they lost their job, and now because they need to hire people. And can you take us through the process of how you decide to create an additional company, an additional service? What gets into your mind, and how did you execute on that?
Yeah, so it really was about just constantly hearing these two sides and thinking to myself, I've been in this industry 25 years. It's been an amazing career. It has, offered me opportunities that you just can't get anywhere else, right? And I just really felt this need to help in some way. And, I'm going to tell you, the idea came from, Match.com, right? So it's a matching system, right? And then, I was working with a friend of mine who needed help, and she was looking for care.com. She was going to care.com. And it just started to think of this makes sense. It's matchmaking, TaskRabbit, Angie's List, all of these. And so I started to think, this is a great way to put freelancers and organizations together. And it needs to be online because that's how people are working today. And that's kind of how the evolution happened. I had a couple, believe it or not, like kind of sleepless nights on my friends losing jobs. And I thought, what happened to Ed, as a business owner, I'm a freelancer. I hire freelancers. And that was a constant worry for me for the entire pandemic on how was my business going to survive? How was I going to help these other freelancers get jobs, the ones that work with me? So I was living it and, trying to help at the same time. So that's how it evolved. And then I thought, wow, I have no experience in building a platform.
Right.
I need to get some good people around me, right? And so I did. I got some good people around me, and we built it. And it's complete labor of love, absolutely passion project. And within the first 2 weeks, we had 150 freelancers sign up.
That's
so
awesome. How did you find those people to help you build the platform? And don't tell me on Match.com.
No, I think, I having worked in tech companies, I know people, right? And you just ask around. And so I called up some of my friends from PSAV, now Encore, and said, who do you know? And that I can even talk to say, okay, what is it I need? Like, I didn't even know what I needed, and I didn't even really know how it worked. And so I did a lot of research before, signing that first check. And then I worked with some great marketing people in the industry. I, again, hired freelancers at every step of the way from the events industry to do this. And, just started to build it. And I think that if you have a vision, that if you do due diligence, and, again, I have that advisory group that I went to and said, this is what I'm thinking. Is this insane, or do you think this will work? And honestly, I have to tell you, even if they had said it wouldn't work, I might have done it anyway, because I really believed in it.
Right.
And they were all like, you got to do this. You just have to do this. So it just came about as, how do I help people? And I think when you find a problem, and you can, if there's a problem, if you can figure out a solution, that's how you start.
How long did it take you from identifying the problem to having the final product and launching it?
So I can tell you that I identified the problem almost immediately, because I was part of the problem, right? I was a freelancer. And so I could see it happening right away. So, the March, April, May of 20, I sent away for my trademark in July. And I launched almost a year to the day later.
Wow.
Yeah. I wanted to do it right, and I wanted to take my time. And then all of a sudden the world opened up, and I was like, hurry.
Right?
You have to hurry. Yeah. So.
So you share crazy figures, 41% of the workforce changing job this year. 50% of the U.S. workforce in 5 years.
Within 5 years, yeah.
Being freelancers. On both sides, as a professional and as an organization, how do we look at that? What is the strategy that we have to put in place to integrate all those freelancers?
Yeah, I think that is a strategy, right? And every organization really has to sit down and say, and that's why I start with the events and how events have changed, because that's where you need to start. You can't really start and say, okay, what kind of talent do I need? What kind of freelancers? How do I hire these people? You really need to start and say, okay, what's my event strategy? And then what talent do I have today that works today? Will it work tomorrow? And if not, how do I fit some people in there that will bring that talent that I need? And so you really kind of have to start with what's your need? Where are you going? And then what's your need?
Now, when you look at those figures, I mean, there's a lot of people that used to have a corporate or organization job because of sense of security.
Right.
Which it's gone.
It's gone. It's gone. Yeah. Yep. So
how does one look at their future and prepare themselves? And I'm talking more about, the expectation, the mental health issues. You talk about the roller coaster, emotional roller coaster earlier on. How do you transition from looking at, I can have a job for life, to, well, there's going to be the freelance economy?
Yeah, I think it's a very personal journey that you go through with that. For me, it was very easy and quick. But for some people who have been with, one of the hotels for 20 years, how do they make that change? And I think they've had a year now to make that change. They've been working through that grief process for a year. And I do believe it's a grief process.
Right.
You know, you've lost something that, you know, you knew and you were comfortable with and, you know, had security and all of that. But I think they've worked through that. And now we are at a time where they are saying, okay, what is my value? What can I put out in the marketplace? So I think for freelancers, they really need to sit down with themselves and say, okay, what do I offer? As opposed to saying, well, I was always a hotel salesperson. What do I offer? Well, okay, so you have sales skills, you have organizational skills, you have, you know, and really start to make a list of what you can offer an organization, and then what do you want to do, and how many hours do you want to work? Like I would start to think through the freelance options, right? And you know, for a lot of the tech industry, their event marketing departments have always been on the smaller side, with their business model being contracting out for almost everything. Right. So they're used to this.
Right.
It's other organizations and associations, especially, who really need to make the change.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's hard for freelancers, I think, you know, it was hard, I should say, the last year for freelancers to make that emotional, psychological, you know, change from security to now I've got to really look at what my skill set is.
And from the organization point of view, how do you incorporate that when you build culture, when you want to make sure that your customer, there's a long-term relationship with the customer, that your sales team or the people that are actually executing the project know the customer? How do you build a culture with freelancers?
Yeah, so I think the misnomer with the freelance economy or the freelancers is that they're just part-timers and they're not really part of the team, and you know, they're just here for, you know, to get a paycheck. That is not the case anymore. Freelancers really can be part of your team. And again, just using the tech world as an example, they again, most of the tech companies utilize freelancers and contractors as the bulk of their events team. So it is about communication. It's about bringing them into the fold and like keeping conversation open. It's about introducing, you know, everybody to everybody, you know, but it is, the idea that a freelancer is just somebody in to get a paycheck and out again, that thought process is gone. That's like the, you know, kind of the old way of looking at a freelancer.
Understood. When
I go in and I work with an organization on their sponsorship, I become part of their team. I'm on their team calls once a week, so I know exactly what's going on. I am introduced to everybody. I have, you know, I'm part of the event strategy team.
Got it. So when we meet in a year now, that's my favorite question from my friend Jason Gaignard. When we meet in a year from now with a bottle of champagne, what are we celebrating?
Oh, you know, everything. Why not? I mean, I'd be celebrating everything with you right now. I would. Listen, I don't think it's doom and gloom. I think we're done with doom and gloom. I think we now know what's ahead of us to some degree, or at least I should say we know how to manage what's ahead of us, right? Before it was the great unknown. No one had any idea, you know, we didn't even want to walk outside of our door. Now we have knowledge and we have experience behind us. And I think that, you know, the doom and gloom is gone. The unknown a little bit still is there we don't know if we're going to be hybrid or digital or whatever, but I think I celebrate every day.
Fabulous. Meg, how do people get in touch with you, please?
They can contact me at meg@eventsGIG.com or give me a call at 702-232-1337. Especially if you're a baby boomer, you like to give me a call.
Wow, you're giving your number like that. Well,
it's a work number. It's my office number.
It was fabulous to talk with you, Meg.
Thank you.
Good luck with everything. And I can't wait to see you again face to face.
Yes, me as well, my friend. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Meg, for sharing your time and your knowledge with us. Fascinating number, 41% of the workforce changing job this year or resigning. That's actually a little worrying. And wow, And I hope that everyone enjoyed listening to our conversation. If you want to get in touch with me, please reach out on LinkedIn or join the Facebook group, www.eventbusinessformula.com/group, where we discuss everything related to owning and managing your business in the meetings and event industry. Thank you.